Hello and welcome to another episode of the Kitsy Creations podcast. I'm your host, Elle, and on today's episode, I am actually hosting solo. Colors and I have been really busy with quite a few different projects, and one of us forgot to schedule time to actually record an episode. It was me. Definitely was me this time. It wasn't colors. We just been, like I said, really busy. It's been kind of intense the last few weeks, getting some matters taken care of and just trying to pay attention to a lot of different things that are going on in our separate lives. So we definitely will be coming back together here next week. But this week, it's just me, which honestly makes me feel a bit nostalgic because this is how this channel started. It was just an idea that I suddenly got probably one day in the shower or one day waking up or whatever, whenever it happened. And I just decided to start recording. My first few episodes weren't even actual episodes. They were just me narrating my book, the scary stories to keep you up at night. I would just pick a random story out of my book every week and I would just go ahead and read it out loud. And it would take me quite a few tries, honestly. And from there, I would get on Canva and just edit a video, put it on YouTube, and that was fun. However, curious enough, this wasn't my first time doing that either, just because a few years prior, so back in like 2018, maybe 2019, College and I were already working together, YouTube channel and all. He was drawing, he was making all the illustrations for my videos, and I was just narrating, again, just kind of doing research. And it was all on YouTube back then. It was fun. And then I got busy with like my job at the time, and then I kind of stopped doing it. So there goes, sometimes the first time around it doesn't work. And so you just keep trying. And so eventually you find a better way for your thing, right? Your idea to work out for you. Anyway, let's get back to to our episode today. I have a pretty interesting topic today. I myself have always been interested in reptiles. I remember growing up in the city of Chicago, one of those yearly trips that our school would take was actually the Lincoln Park Zoo field trip. And that was like almost every year you would go with just, a different teacher. It was always a fun time. Definitely being away from the classroom was always fun. But in particular, the Lincoln Park Zoo in Chicago always has really great events too. And for the most part, their animals are pretty happy or pretty content, or, maybe they're just used to it. I don't know. But I don't remember ever encountering like a distressed animal there. So, and of course, one of my favorite places, but also one of the more creepier places, was the reptile house located inside the Lincoln Park Zoo. When you walk in, you see, little lizards, little snakes here and there. And then as you go deeper into the building, you start seeing the much bigger reptiles. There's also a bat cave. It might still be there. And in the bat cave, basically, you go in and they simulated a thunderstorm. So you walk in and it feels like you're inside a thunderstorm. And all these bats are flying around you, but they're honestly behind pixie glass, so they can't get to you. That would be horrifying. And then after you walk through the cave, you go into the alligator or crocodile exhibition. And they have these super high, like pixie glass again, um, containers, if you will. And you can see them as you're walking in. It's a little scary because you first walk in and you kind of feel like they're in the same room with you, but they're not. They're definitely, you're safe. And then you can also go ahead and admire some of the bigger like snakes out there. So it's really cool. I honestly, even though it creeps me out, I still to this day feel like the reptile house is definitely one of my favorite places. When I started going out, to the zoos out in Texas, there was one zoo, honestly, out in Waco, called the Cameron Park, or not Cameron Park, Cameron Zoo. I think it's just called Cameron Zoo. They also have really good exhibitions. What I like about them is that while you're visiting, it doesn't feel like the animals are actually trapped, right? They seem like they're pretty much out in the open. So I do love the way that they have their setup. They also have a reptile house, and again, it gives me the creeps, but I love going in there, and it just feels like you're in the room with these, creatures, even though they're behind plexiglass and so forth. But it's a really great experience. So either or, whether it's Lincoln Park Zoo or the Waco Zoo, Cameron Zoo, I recommend both. So, back to our subject here. I did a little bit of digging because, again, there's always been talk about scientists finding all types of creatures that we can pretty much link into our today's creatures, right? Except these are much bigger. And there's an article that I ran into where scientists discovered a giant crocodile with T Rex teeth. And they said if we were alive when this thing was roaming, that we would have been freaked out. Something out of nightmares is what they call it. And due to the size, most likely, this was a very big creature. Also, when I looked up the article, they named it this really long, weird name, and I just love having to look up things to say correctly, and then I still say them incorrectly. So bear with me. The giant crocodile with teeth like T Rex was a top predator during the Jurassic period, researchers found in a recent study. And it looks like this was back in 2017, but there's actually articles that go back as 2006. So they really did their research. This is like 10 years almost, where they're recording all types of facts, all types of things they're finding out. They named it or nicknamed it Razana. So Razana roamed Madagascar around 170 million years ago, according to a study that was published in Peer. And researchers first described the crocodile ancestors based on isolated teeth and fragmented bone documented in a 2006 study. At the time, scientists could not determine whether Razana was a dinosaur or an unknown crocodile ancestor. Some of the articles that I found actually they call it a ghost crocodile because they could not trace its lineage back to where did it come from. They didn't have like a ancestor lineage. So they called it the ghost crocodile. And to be honest, that's what interested me because what do you mean? There's ghost crocodiles where? So I don't go there. Because who wants to be haunted by a crocodile? And so the research continued, like I said, into the more recent years, and new cranial fossils enabled the team of Italian paleontologists to identify Rosanna as a crocodile relative, making her the oldest representative of a group of animals similar to crocodiles called Nodoscotians. Unlike modern crocodiles, Rosanna had a large jaw and serrated teeth similar to that of a T. rex, suggesting that the animal was a top hunter and scavenger in the Middle Jurassic. This really reminds me of videos that I run into TikTok all the time, especially in Florida, and it's usually some kind of golf course, and you have these, people over there playing golf, minding their business, and then these huge reptiles, huge alligators or crocodiles. Honestly, I always forget which one's which, but I know one's bigger than the other. Um, they just walk out like it's their living room, and I'm telling you, like they're massive. For the most part, the videos are pretty mild. Like people may get frightened, but they don't ever really approach the humans, which I feel like we're kind of lucky. But I do know that there's some individuals in Florida who are not as lucky and they have gotten bit. I think there was a recent one that there was a guy that came out of his backyard or the back of his house into his yard, and this alligator was already waiting for him. He took a pretty big chunk out of his leg. So not everyone is as lucky. But I do feel if you live in Florida, you kind of know what you signed up for. So just maybe be more aware when you're out there, hanging out in your backyard, front yard, getting out of your car, whichever, because there's also so many videos of people just getting out for the morning to go work and they get in their car or they're leaving and there's like a huge anaconda waiting for them. So I don't know why people in Florida, but if you do, no hate, just facts. It's scary out there. A little bit more on Rosanna. So, besides the studies that they did, there was honestly so many like really cool pictures that I found on there, and the cranial parts that they found, you can actually see the teeth. I'm not quite sure if the teeth are like its original teeth, or maybe they made a simulation of it. I recently went to a museum here in Washington, D.C. I want to say it's the Nature Museum. It's pretty much part of the chain of museums out here. So here in Washington, D.C., basically you have like all these museums almost in every corner. And there's a name to it, and I honestly just can't seem to remember right now. But they have like an art museum, a nature museum. There's a few. I think we only went to those two on that specific occasion. But I do recommend it, and I don't even think we paid that much. There was also the maybe it was like a history museum where we saw the Constitution. So you can go in there and see like the original document of the Constitution, and it's pretty cool. I don't remember being too many people in there either. There definitely were a lot of like school groups, so just be aware of that. Um, the chain of museums is called the Smithsonian Museum. So there is, like I said, art gallery. There's the Nature Museum, American history. Definitely, there's so many. I recommend it if you're in the area for sure. And of course, you also have like Lincoln's Memorial and many other places you can visit. And in that, like I said, in that museum that we went to, the nature one, there were a lot of bones, a lot of fragments that were, dinosaur fragments, or there was also like there were really all kinds of animals they had, but I do know some of them they created or recreated because what they actually found is so delicate and it's like so old, like millions of years, that they had to pretty much recreate it with um, other items, other I don't know why I can't think of the word right now. But they had to recreate the pieces so that way they can show the public and they weren't deteriorating any further. Very interesting stuff. I will make sure to include pictures of it because I definitely find it interesting, like how enormous this creature was. Also, where it was found. It was found in northwestern Madagascar, which who would have thought, right? Always interesting to see what scientists are still researching. And it makes me like really happy when they find this because it's only going to help us understand a lot of the animals that we still do have, around us, and maybe learning their behavior, as well as, how they help our ecosystem. So, all in all, it was some great research. I recommend looking it up. I'll make sure to drop some links as well so you can do your own little research if you choose to. I know this one wasn't too much of a paranormal episode, but we'll have those more in the future. I just definitely thought this one was interesting. And like I said, initially it caught my attention because one of the titles of the articles was giant crocodile ghost like creature. And I was like, where? When? But it ended up being not that. Actually, it was much better, I think. I definitely want to always leave an open invitation for maybe any topic that you might want to hear us talk about, as well as anyone who would like to showcase their business, their music, their art. We have an open door for that as well. You can always drop us a message on our social media or our email. Make sure to drop that in the comments as well. And honestly, we do have some interviews that are coming up later this month. There's a couple who does a lot for their community. They have their own business, and so I'm looking forward to that episode. And I know that further down the line, there's a few others. So again, just give us a listen. Definitely drop some comments. Give us some recommendations. Colors and I are always looking for recommendations. But this kind of sums up my episode. Thank you for listening and enjoy the rest of your day.